Hello, hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir and I welcome you to another episode of our weekly Roundup live. And in today's episode, we basically have the regular updates as we would go about it, the Pnp draws, the express entry draw, which happened, some small snippets. But as part of this episode that we do every Saturday, we also discuss about some or the other things. And in today's episode, I want to discuss to you about the most recent internal memo that was made public by way of ATIP notes, and we're going to talk about that. It talks about the department's plans. It talks about certain situations which a lot of us may or may not like, but it also talks about how they intend to tackle things, and the fact is that they will be looking to bring out a more definitive plan by spring, which is this already. So before I go into more details, let me first start with a short presentation that we always do with regards to our weekly roundup, and then we will come back and talk about these other things and the internal memo. So where did I go? This is where it is. All right. Starting with the quote of the week. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Well, said Walt Disney, and obviously he pursued his dreams and made good of them. Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. Stay up to date on Canadian immigration news and trends. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and everywhere else that we could possibly be. Today's topics of discussion, as I already told you, we'll be talking about the Pnp draws, the express entry draws, and other news. And then we will go on to the question and answers. The Pnp draws, starting with Saskatchewan. On the 8th of March, Saskatchewan invited a total of 85 candidates to apply for provincial nomination. 39 invitations went to express entry candidates and 43 to OID, occupation in demand. The minimum expression of interest requirement the score was very high. It was actually 87 for both the categories, excuse me. And they needed to have work experience, or the NOCs that were selected were 31 in number. So 31 NOCs were selected, but the score of 87 was too high. How does one get a score of 87? Basically, it will have to be by way of either you have a relative in Saskatchewan where you can get significant additional points, or you have a job offer or a valid job offer from an employer in Saskatchewan. Again, when you can get significant points, basically bringing you to this 87 range. Other than that, it can get pretty difficult. British Columbia, on the 8th of March, BC-PNP invited a total of 204 candidates, and the majority of the invitations, that is 191, were sent through a general draw. Another draw resulted in 13 invitations and targeted jobs in demand, but the minimum score, again extremely high, was 128. Very high, I must say that. But then the number of invitations was also quite less or small, so probably that balanced out. Manitoba, on the 10th of March, Manitoba invited 120 candidates to apply for the provincial nominations. 50 were invited with a score of 781 as skilled workers. Skilled worker overseas was 34 with a minimum score of 718. And international education stream, as we all know, does not need a score. 36 candidates were invited, and out of this express entry profiles, there are only 33 of them who were received the invitation. As we all have now come to live with, express entry draw did happen on the 16th of March. 924 candidates received their invitations. The lowest score was 754. And yes, before any one of you asks, does that mean that their CRS score could have been 154? Because you get 600 points for nomination. Well, then it's absolutely possible. And for people who keep wondering, how can someone get a score of only 154 in express entry? Well, it's absolutely possible, because for those of you who are asking this question, you must then think back and keep in mind the date of 13th of February. What is it? 13th of February 2021, when the lowest express entry draw was conducted. 27,332 invitations were issued, and the lowest score was only 75. So if 75 can be in an express entry pool, then why not 154? Usually these are the candidates who may have got some work experience in Canada, who have probably received a job offer from a province, from an employer in a province, and therefore received a nomination and have gone ahead and got a score of 600 points added, and therefore 754. In other news, this is what I was talking about, the Federal Skilled Worker and CEC 2022. What is happening with that? The plan. Internal memo of 21st January was released. 21st January now is already 2 months old, and we will talk about it more in details, but it did indicate that the invitations of in express entry will resume in 2022. But it doesn't have a lot of exciting information at this point of time, but I will discuss the internal memo with you in detail just after we finish this presentation. Also, if you're interested, 35,000 immigrants were landed in the month of January, which is slightly lower than almost 44,000, 45,000 people that were landed in November and December, because that was the time when IRCC was in absolutely top gear and they were trying to land as many people as possible in order to meet their 2021 quotas. So it looks like they've taken a slight back seat on in the month of January. The speed came down a bit, so they got 35,000 people. Obviously, all categories of people were landed in all different streams across the board. 65% were under the economic class, 20% under the family class. Refugees and humanitarian class accounted for the remaining 15% of the landing. Does it add up? 65, 70, 80? Yeah, of course it adds up. So that's 100% of your targets that was completed for the month of January. That's basically it for this short presentation, which was to do with the background, or rather, which was to do with the updates that have happened in this particular week. And now we will talk about two different things. Firstly, let me see if I can pull that up. So first we will talk about the internal memo. So let me bring that up. This is what we are talking about. This is the new internal memo that was made public. As I said, this was released, or rather, this was obtained by cicnews.com. They have, so you can, if you are looking for a link to this memo, you can always go back to their website, check their I think it's on top of their header, and you find the link of this memo. You can download it yourself if you wish to read in your own free time. This was released on the 21st of January. As I said, there's nothing exciting in here that we could, sort of jump at with the joy with, but there are a few things that I want to talk to you about. I'm not going to go into the background. We have already spoken about the background plenty of times as to the reasons why we are sitting with so much of backlog. Mind you, this memo has been issued to the deputy minister. So for people who don't know, the immigration minister is a political appointee, right? So whoever is the political party who is probably in the power will appoint their immigration minister. But it's the deputy minister, which is the technocrat, right? So these are the people who don't basically lose their job if the parties change. And these, therefore, people are the ones, these are the ones who get to make the actual decisions, who are actually responsible for majority of the happenings within the department. Okay. Starting with this one, CEC invitations issued from 1st of Jan to 20th of Jan. That was the main crux of what resulted in the admissions in the year of 2021. Out of 405,000, 32% corresponded to CEC, which is pretty big in numbers. But what I want to talk to you about today is, let me see if I can find that. Yeah, again, they're just speaking about the fact of having to reduce the number of total quotas for 2022 to 55,900, because they had to reduce that in order to accommodate for the other categories, and we will talk about that in a bit. This is where it is. I cannot highlight. Yeah, I can highlight this. All right. Under the 2022-2024 multi-year level plans, the federal high skilled, when we say federal high skilled, FHS, that is the combination of all express entry programs, will face a significant reduction to accommodate the other ministerial and department priorities. We all already know that the actual target or the quota was 108,500, which was slashed into half to 55,900. This reduction in admissions space was required to accommodate other departmental priorities that is accommodating TR to PR legacy inventory from 2021. Well, for people who have until now still been wondering if there will be a return of TR to PR, and because they have been seeing the TR to PR quota appearing in the immigration levels plan, well, again, this is again a reminder for you that the immigration quota that you see under TR to PR for 2022 and 2023 is only to accommodate the legacy inventory which has already been generated from 2021. There will be no new TR to PR program. Okay, we have done this so many times, we've explained this so many times, but some of you still are under that hope that TR to PR will return. Well, this is again to re-emphasize that this is where they're saying it very, very clearly, that this is the quota that was for the inventory, legacy inventory for TR to PR that was already created in 2021. Now, where it becomes very, very interesting, I haven't really marked it out. I should have done that. Again, they say that no new FHS intake is required for the first half of 2022. And small rounds in late 2022 would be required to meet the 2023 levels. Again, this is also something which I have discussed in my previous videos earlier, that this year's quotas, this year's target, which is about 55,900, have already been, there's already accounted for. Okay, they already have enough people. And where do they say that? Let me show you that as well. I'm just scrolling down to that number. Yeah, this is where it says that. Okay. The border effectively closed, blah, blah, blah. This is in addition to the younger CEC inventory, almost 21,000. Again, considering the limited space available under the FHS in 2022, which is 55,900, and in order to achieve the 6-month service standard for new applications, the existing FHS inventory, which is 75,000, would need to be reduced to half before inviting any new clients to apply. So this is talking about, again, the express entry draw. But here it also tells you that they already have 75,000 people, which is 20,000 more. That is the target for this year. So they already have more than the target that is required for this year. So all this inventory that you are seeing, all these PPRs that are coming through, all those people who are receiving their who are receiving their passport requests, they are all being counted or being assumed to be counted, expected to be counting towards the landed targets for this year. This is not the, so basically people who are receiving their passport requests, they're not going towards the next year's target. They're all for this year's target. And this year's targets are already met. Okay. For next year's target, which is for 2023, they have already said that they will need to do only small rounds in late 2022. So when we say small rounds, that again becomes a question mark. We don't know what that small rounds mean. Now we know that the next year's target is roughly 75,000 people. In order to take 75,000 people, not applications, 75,000 people, which would roughly equate to about 40,000 to 45,000 applications. In order to get 45,000 successful applications, as we had indicated earlier, they will not need to issue more than 60,000 approximately ITAs. Now, when they have to issue 60,000 ITAs, that would be the approximate number, give or take. Could be 5,000 less or could be more, because not all ITAs are successful. ITAs also get rejected. ITAs also get declined. People obviously get their applications refused. So all those need to be taken into consideration as well. So if they need to get 75,000 people next year, and keep in mind 20,000 are extra this year already, which would again then get contributed toward the next year's quota, which basically means again next year all they are looking for is about 55,000 people, which puts a lot of pressure on the express entry pool, which basically means as and when the draws will happen, the number of ITAs to be issued would be small. It's already saying it. I mean, I'm not saying it. They are saying it. Small rounds in late 2022 would be required to meet the 2023 levels. Because if there is anything that we have learned so far is that these internal memos actually have the exact plan that is going to unfold in the coming few weeks, months, as we move forward. So this is not speculation. This is not something which we are talking out of a figment of imagination. This is what we are reading out of the internal memos. And as we have seen in the past, whatever we do see in these memos is what exactly happens. Also keep in mind, this is old memo already. This is from the 21st of January. We are already in 21st of March. lot of things are already happening, and we'll come to that in a bit. Now, again, few other things that I want to talk to you about in this particular memo is that if at all any, okay, here it is. If at all any invitations do get issued, okay, so if they do issue any invitations from now until June 2022, all of them will count, or rather all of them will be processed only outside after the 6 months processing time, so that they can come to the next year's quotas. They will probably not be issued any PPRs this year. Now, this is primarily for the FHS. So CECs, federal skilled workers, we are not talking about the PNP. So don't get all yourself all knotted up as to thinking this is affecting you as well. This is primarily for CECs, FSTCs, federal skilled trade categories, and your federal skilled workers, of course. Again, I'm just going to read some more. Inquiries from the pool of candidates in Canada are increasing. Okay, so these are the people who are already in Canada. Obviously, there are a lot of you out there who are CEC, who are probably sitting with their work permits expiring or have already got expired. Now, this paragraph is for you. Several EE pool candidates already residing in Canada are flagging that their work permit is expiring soon. Without these clients being invited to apply under EE, they are running out of options for a work permit extension and will soon need to leave Canada as a result. So this is again being flagged as something that they need to discuss and talk about. Nothing specific has been mentioned, because in the next paragraph, this is where it talks about more details. They say, many of the clients with expiring work permits would not be invited if rounds were to return in February. Now, for people who are aware of our previous discussions about the internal memos, it was first indicated that the draws would pause until 31st of January. This memo has asked for the draws to be paused until the end of March, which we already know because we already seen the last draw was also PNP. So we already know the draws are paused definitely until the month of end of March. Now, this also further says that even if the draws were resumed in February, even if that was to happen, majority of the people who are CEC, whose work permits are expiring, they would not get an ITA anyways, because the scores are going to be high. And it says, given the current composition of the pool, the minimum comprehensive ranking score necessary to receive an ITA would likely rise above 500 and remain high, regardless of whether invitations are further paused or resume at a modest pace. Again, modest pace in the near future. Candidates with these scores have a very high human capital, but also tend to be homogeneous. Homogeneous basically means same category or same kind of profiles, which is high language proficiency, education level, significant work experience, potentially arranged employment. So what it is basically saying is that even if they were to resume the draws, the Canadian Experience draws, the Canadian Experience class draws, most of the people will not receive an ITA anyways, because the scores will remain high. They will be high. And yeah, so that is going to be a concern, even if you are a CEC candidate, even if you have been waiting anxiously, desperately, if your scores are on the lower side of, I don't know, we can't even speculate anymore, because we don't even know what kind of draws they're going to be holding, because they keep referring to small numbers. They keep referring to, where was that? Modest pace. I don't know what modest pace here means, but this is what they're referring to again, that even if the draws are resumed at a modest pace, what does modest pace mean? I mean, how can anybody take a guess at that number? Okay, further, all right, where was the next one? They're talking about a strong communication strategy is required. I don't know if they understand the meaning of communication strategy or not, because there has been no communication from IRCC at all. And they're talking about addressing the clients whose work permits are expiring. So they are aware the work permits are expiring. They know people are applying for extensions. They know people are struggling. And that is probably one of the reasons why they are not really processing the extensions at this point of time. Otherwise, you would have a lot of people without out of status. So they are talking about a communication strategy. We haven't really heard of anything at this point of time. Keep in mind, this is an internal memo which is being sent to the Deputy Minister of Immigration. It then says, we will return to you in March 2022 with a plan for future FHS intake to determine what timeline and volume will align with 2022 multi-year level plan and processing time objectives. So basically means we will have to wait till we get our hands onto the next release of the similar memo, and then we can probably get a better insight as to what they have planned, because obviously there is another memo that would have come to people concerned at this point of time, because we're already in the month of March. Now, on that, I would also like to talk about one thing. Recently, I'm not sure how many of you have seen the video, and that was a video which we shared even on our Facebook groups. That was Sean Fraser, who was in conversation with some education company, and he was talking about a lot of people have been asking this question: what's happening with Canadian Experience class? What's happening with the postgraduate work permit? And he said he doesn't want to make any announcements, but they are working to release something by spring. Now, spring in Canada is from March to May, so we are already in the month. We are already in the season of spring, though. Yeah, there have been some cold days out there, but we are already in the spring season, if you would like to call it. Sean Fraser indicated that there are things being worked out so that there could happen something in spring. And again, this document also indicates that the multi-level plans that they have, the future FHS intake plans would also be introduced to the department in the month of March, which is in spring. So there is definitely something in the works. So would there be an express entry draw happening soon? Fingers are crossed. I hope it does. But what is concerning is the fact that it is going to be small numbers or a modest pace, which we do not know what they entirely mean. Again, same thing about the backlogs. The continued pause on FHS will allow the department to address the inventory backlogs. Well, that's what has been happening. That is the reason why they haven't been conducting any draws. Now, this is another one that I want you to sort of take a read of. It says PNP rounds will continue. So you have been seeing provincial nominee draws are continuing. The express entry draws for PNPs are continuing. A pause in express entry. So the draws are express entry is not happening, right? So they say a pause could be seen favorably by PTs, provinces and territories, as an opportunity to nominate candidates with higher human capital. All right. Well, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but provinces were really, really upset and miffed with IRCC when they conducted this large CEC draws of 27,332 last year, and then they did this TR to PR, because what that did was most of the people who were being nominated by the provinces were no longer interested in taking the provincial nomination, because through the federal itself they were getting invited. 27,000 people got invited through CEC. There were 90,000 plus people got invited through TR to PR. So there was more than 100,000 people who were getting invited without having to go through provincial nominee programs, right? So provinces were not very happy. They were losing out on a lot of good candidates that they had chosen, selected, nominated. So IRCC here is talking about the fact that because they have paused the express entry draws, provinces now have the opportunity of selecting the top or high ranking human capital scores. One of the provinces that was seen taking advantage of this was Ontario. As we already know that they were conducting draws until 467. From last few draws onwards, they have moved their range right up to 600. So they are picking up all kinds of profiles. And this time, people are actually accepting their nominations and moving ahead. So they are taking advantage of it. Alberta also did take advantage of this by actually inviting people right up to scores of 500. And they did that, right? And they got a lot of candidates who they invited with a very high level of CRS score. And under normal circumstances, these categories of people would not have accepted the invitations. But considering there was no draws happening, that they very gladly did accept the Alberta notification of interest. So again, that is what is being spoken about. Pausing invitations to apply to FHS programs will make the PNP the most viable option for express entry candidates. IRCC realizes that. Express entry, and as a result, may incentivize PTs to nominate more candidates. This could help offset previous PT, provinces and territories, criticism on intake initiatives, that is TR to PR pathways and large CEC rounds. Exactly what we were talking about earlier. Okay, one more paragraph before we finish this off. Candidates in the pool, including those holding work permits due to expire, will continue to face uncertainty with respect to their likelihood of receiving an invitation once invitation to apply rounds resume later in 2022. So this is a confirmation, my friends. This is an absolutely written something from IRCC where it says that they are not talking about may resume, will resume, we plan to do it. No, it specifically states once invitation to apply rounds resume later in 2022, candidates would check their CRS against the minimum CRS score that was necessary to apply an invitation to receive an ITA in these rounds. Two things are clear here. One, that express entry draws will definitely resume. Excuse me. We don't know when, but they definitely will resume this year. That's the first thing. Second thing, which is a direct concern for a lot of people who are Canadian experience class, that they may face some issues getting an ITA because the draws are not going to be at a lower score. They will remain at a high score. So while your work permits may be expiring, the likelihood of you getting an ITA will remain uncertain, and you may start looking for other options if you haven't already been doing that. That's pretty much it as far as this particular memo is concerned, which I wanted to share with you. And there is one more thing that I want to talk to you before I get on. Let me just switch that on. And that is equally important for a lot of people out there. Let me see if I can get this. Yes, I can get it here. Okay, talk to you about that in a bit. So this, my friends, was the internal memo that we basically were discussing about. It was issued on the 21st of January. It talks a lot about the fact that the draws definitely will be held this year. There would definitely be draws, but what it is scaring us all is with the numbers that might never, that basically would really put a lot of pressure even on Canadian experience class. So there are a lot of people who are hoping for a CEC draw, and even with the lower scores, they're expecting to get something. Now, while all this discussion is definitely relevant, people should also keep that in mind, that there is a mandate that was issued to the Immigration Minister, Sean Fraser, and that mandate said that Sean Fraser, Immigration Minister, should look at expanding pathways in the express entry for the international students and foreign workers. Okay. Now, I do not know what this impact would be, because as it is, they only have a quota for 55,900 people. That's a very small number. Even for the next year, the quota is only for 75,000 people. Again, a small number. Considering they already have 20,000 excess inventory for this year, which would probably get translated into next year, which basically means next year target is also 55,000, give or take few. It's not a very big number. So where is the room to expand any more pathways within the express entry? I don't know. Where are they going to make that room for those newer pathways to happen? That is something to keep in mind. So there is absolutely nothing happening for TR to PR. So people who are still hoping and looking forward for TR to PRs, it's not happening, guys. It's already been said very, very clearly. So do not fall into the trap of some agents, consultants out there talking to you about TR to PR and saying that, register with us. As and when it will happen, we will make it happen for you, kind of things. Don't fall for that. If it happens, great. Whatever happens, we will all rejoice with that. But my expectation, my opinion is that whatever the changes might happen, it would be within the express entry, because that is what the mandate letter to Immigration Minister mentioned. Nothing to do with TR to PR. Scores will remain high whenever they happen. As I said, Sean Fraser also in the very recent media release indicated that they are going to make some announcements for some work that they're doing to release sort of these express entry draws to happen within, let me see if I can pull that video up. Just give me one moment to see if I can find that video first of all. It's not going to be easy, but we can make something happen. Just give me one moment, guys, if you'll just have patience with me so that I can show you where that video was. This is what happens when you don't keep these things ready, but I wasn't expecting to talk about that particular video at this point of time, but we can do that. Just give me one moment till I very quickly pick that out. Yeah, can't find it right now, but yeah, it sucks. Well, if you were to go back on our Facebook group, I'm sure you will be able to find it. I don't want to waste your time while you're waiting and while we're talking about this. So this was the internal memo that we wanted to talk to you about. And the other thing that I did want to discuss with you about was the medical inadmissibility policy of Immigration Refugee Protection Act that takes effect. The changes that have happened now, they are the changes that have happened is that tripling the cost of threshold for determining the medical inadmissibility, and they're amending the definition of social services by removing special education, social and vocational rehabilitation services, and personal support services. Now, what does that mean in English? Okay, well, for people who don't know, everybody gets assessed for medical inadmissibility when you're applying for immigration application. Whenever you're applying for immigration, right? And you get assessed for three factors: the safety and security of the Canadian residents, citizens, or anybody else who's in Canada. And third one is for excessive demand threshold. So what does it mean? First one is pretty simple and straightforward. Safety and security means you should not have a medical condition which would pose a direct threat to the safety or security of people in Canada. So your condition should not be where you could become violent, where you could sort of, pose a direct threat to people's safety and security. So if you have such a condition, then you probably may face inadmissibility. The third one, which is quite common and that applies to a lot of people, for example, young children, Down's syndrome, autism, speech delays, a lot of these situations or conditions can invoke an excessive demand. So excessive demand basically means that Canada has prescribed a certain amount of money which they are willing to spend per year on each person. And if your condition is such that this threshold is increased, so your condition is such that it would require more from Canada to spend on them, and it exceeds this threshold, then it comes under inadmissibility. But not only that, if you have a condition which could then pose further pressure on the already existing medical infrastructure, that could also be a concern. If your condition is such where you would basically take a spot of somebody else in Canada who's currently queuing up for some sort of services in healthcare, that could also be a concern. So these collectively become excessive demand threshold. Now, this excessive demand threshold until now was at, where's the number? Okay, so that number was at 7,266, okay? And it has increased to 8,019. This was increased in January this year. But this is calculated 3 times of this number. So if you are going to be calculating your medical inadmissibility threshold for this year onwards, it is 24,057, and it is multiplied by 5. It is calculated for 5 years. So they've tripled the threshold limit. The threshold limit is 8,019. They've tripled it, so it is 24,000, and multiplied by 5, it is calculated over a period of 5 years. So it's a good thing. I mean, for people who are wondering what am I talking about, it's a good thing because it basically means a lot of people now will still be able to come to Canada, will still be considered admissible because threshold will not apply to them because their condition is such that they do not pose this much of a threshold limit on the medical services. So this is on the good side of things. There are a lot of people who are concerned because they have children who might be, have a condition with Down syndrome, may have a condition with autism, who do require or who have certain challenges already and who do require special care, special attention, based on which they are otherwise concerned about the excessive demand threshold. Well, the good news is that this figure has increased to 24,000 now, therefore giving you more room to wriggle through this inadmissibility requirements. Well, that's basically it that I had from my side to cover and give you an update about. If you're still here, then you know what to do. You gotta give me that Hulk smash like so that we can get this video out to more people. And if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, then please do, because that is what you should be doing. And if you're not following us on Instagram, then please, that is the link. For people who do not know, and we've been talking about this a lot, I am currently in Dubai. We have a free seminar that would be conducted next week, next Sunday. It's happening in the Park Regis Hotel in Dubai. And it's a free seminar, but I have very, very small number of slots that are limited. So basically, I can only accommodate 150, 160 people because the place has a capacity limit because of COVID restrictions as well. We already have a lot of registrations. We'll be closing the registrations tonight, and after that, tomorrow or day after, we will be sending everybody an invite link. If they register on that invite link, they get an automatic invitations, and only those people will be allowed to come for that seminar, because as I said, we have a capacity limitation there. So if you still haven't registered, I'm sure you'll find it on the Facebook groups as well. Do register for the free seminar, and if at all you're looking for an in-person appointments, then that is the link. I'm taking in-person appointments in Dubai tomorrow, which is Sunday, as well as 26th of March, which is Saturday. So if you are looking to book a one-on-one in-person appointments, that is the link. We are also taking virtual appointments at this point of time. So if you want to discuss something about your application, by all means, please feel free to book your appointment. Now that we have covered all the regular stuff and I have removed all these, we can now get back to the question and answers, because that's what we usually do at this point of time. Starting with Ravi Shankar. Any reason why there are no bulk PPRs from NDO? It has been almost 3 months after we passed our medicals. So I'm not sure if you're asking about your application or you're asking about somebody else's application. Well, I can't tell you exactly why certain visa office is not issuing PPRs at a certain point of time. It could be for any number of reasons. What we did come to know is that last week, New Delhi visa office basically is now at full staffing capacity that they usually would be at. So all their staff are now back in the office. So their processing timelines should get better. And I'm hoping to see more and more passport requests come from them. Also, it's not necessary that the passport requests are issued every single week. It's not necessary. It's a batch release. There is no specific date. At least we do not know of any specific date. Visa offices, I'm sure, have some sort of KPIs that they need to meet and when they need to release. Considering now that New Delhi visa office is now fully staffed and they're back on their feet and up and running, we hopefully we'll see more and more people getting through to their passport requests. As to why you haven't got your medical why you haven't got an update after your medicals? Well, probably because some security check might still need to be completed in your application. Okay, the New Brunswick option, please, what is the deadline? Well, for people who do not know, yesterday we did a live and we spoke about the New Brunswick Pnp stream, which has I think it was just released yesterday or day before. I'm not sure when it was. It has not been released on their website. So they are not talking about it directly on their website. It is released on their hiringplatform.ca website, which is basically for job seekers. A lot of people have raised a question mark that it's not genuine, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you think it's not genuine, please feel to ignore, absolutely ignore it and move forward. You don't have to buy into it and apply for it. Basically, that helps other people who are willing to take a chance with it, because all that it is asking you is to submit your resume and your explanatory details, so that if and when they do find your profile of interest, they can invite you. Now, what is the deadline? There is no deadline at this point of time. What New Brunswick has said in their website, on that particular website where the web link was posted. If you do not know about this, please go and watch my earlier video, which is specifically for this particular stream, where the link for applying has also been included, because you will not find that information anywhere else at all except for that link. Now, there is no deadline which was indicated. What was indicated was they will only identify, or they will only invite people who they find are of interest to them. They're not going to invite everybody. They're not going to send out any notifications to everybody. Only people who they are interested in, they will invite them, number one. Number two, if you have any connection to the province, if you have if you are related to the province in terms you're working in the province, you have any relatives in the province, then you can indicate that, and obviously you will have an advantage to be invited. And number three, they have said that if they do not pick your profile at this point of time, they will still hold on to your profile for a period of 1 year. And if during this period of time, they may have some more requirements, and if they find your profile of interest, they will again reach out to you. So in my opinion, there is no harm in applying. Don't worry about the deadline. You never know, you might just get lucky with it. Okay. Rachel says, I got a score of 504. Is that enough? I would certainly think 504 is enough. We haven't actually checked the... Let's do that actually. Okay, no, sorry, we'll do this here. We haven't really checked in some time the pool breakdown, and while we are at it, let's see the pool breakdown to see how it is looking like. And there you go. That's the pool breakdown. What do you think it's looking like? Not very nice, is it? So 601 to 1200 is 948, which is basically your PNPs, nothing much happening. 501 to 600 is 5840. Now that basically means with this score, 504, you pretty much are one of the 5,000, one of the 6,000, almost 6,000 people who are sitting in the profile. I would say that even if they conduct a modest draw or a small number of draw, you should still receive an invitation within, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3 draws. Worst case, 3 draws. Good case, second draw itself. I don't expect they will issue a 6,000 ITA kind of a draw. I expect them to issue between 3 to 4,000 ITAs. Probably that's the number I'm looking at. With that, you should get your ITA by the second draw. Also keep in mind that the pool is dynamic, which basically means people are constantly upgrading their scores. If you are a Canadian experience class, or if you are a person inside Canada, means you could be completing your education. If you're completing a master's degree, that's adding 30 points. If you're completing a diploma, that's adding 15 points. If you have a sibling who's coming to Canada now, adding 15 points. If you're a person who's completing the Canadian work experience, adding 35 or 40 points. So this pool is very dynamic. The numbers are constantly going up and down. The people profiles are constantly going up and down in the pool, going down when somebody's profile gets ineligible because their profile expires or their work experience goes out of the date period. So all that is happening. Therefore, this pool is very, very dynamic. 481 to 490, also 6,357. Again, a big number there. 491 to 500, 3,130. So that basically tells you there is almost 6 and 3, 9 and 5, 9, 15,000 people with a score of 481 and above. 15,000, that's a big, big, big number. Okay. Considering they will continue to do PNP draws, considering they are planning to do the draws later in the year at a modest pace. We do not know what the meaning of modest pace is. It tells you that the pressure is going to remain high on the express entry pool. The scores are going to remain high. And if they conduct only, let's say, 2,000, 2,500 kind of a draw size, it basically means the score will remain very, very high for quite some time to come. I don't expect the scores to drop anytime soon. Once they get into the regular draws, then you could see 470s. When I'm saying 470s, I'm talking about high 470s being hit somewhere after the 5th, 6th, 7th draw. Again, depending on how many invitations they are issuing per draw. 471 to 480 is a big chunk. That's another 15,000 profiles. And because we do not know each score-wise data there, that number, when it hits 470s, so 479, 480, it will trickle down very, very, very slowly. As I said, keep in mind the pool is dynamic, means more and more people keep getting added. They will keep entering the pool. So that number, the pressure is going to be there. So it might hit 480s. It will definitely hit 480s. It might hit high 470s, 478, 479 kind of a score. But that could be towards the later part of the year, as and when the draws resume and they make it more and more regular. So we have to wait and watch. We have to wait and watch to see what IRCC is going to do in terms of how many invitations they issue, when they start the draws, and how frequent are the draws. Are they going to do CEC specific draw and all program draw, alternate between them, only do CEC specific draw? These are all variables which nobody knows. I definitely don't know. So it's all speculation at this point of time. So fingers crossed. Let's see when the scores, when the draws happen and how soon they get released to understand what exactly is going on. What about people who are in the pool for more than a year? All this talk about inviting people, but no updates on people who are waiting. Well, if you are in the pool for more than a year, then you are not in the pool at all. What that basically means is your express entry profile is valid only for 1 year. So if you're waiting for more than 1 year, means your profile is already expired, means you got to create a new profile, and then you are a new candidate in the pool. So all this talk about inviting people, but no updates for people who no updates for people who are waiting means everybody is waiting. There is nearly what is a pool size now? 196,000 people who are waiting. That's almost nearly 200,000 people who are waiting. And it's the same for everybody else. Everybody is waiting, and if you are waiting, then you should be looking at other options. All depends on your scores. All depends on when the draws will start. I can't tell you when and how, who will receive the invitation. That will happen when it will happen. But if you are waiting for such a long time, then you should start looking for other options as well. If you have the PNP options, take it. If you can consider French as a second language, do it. If you can come to Canada as a student, if studying in Canada is an option, well, most certainly exercise that option. And if you still haven't gotten around to finding a job, well, then it's time to put in extra efforts to look for a job offer. But it's not about people who are waiting. At the end of the day, it's Canada's prerogative who they choose to invite, when they choose to invite, based on their requirements. Okay, so it's never going to be about the people who are waiting. It's always going to be about Canada in terms of who they want to invite and when they want to invite, always based on their requirements, always based on their circumstances, their conditions, and their political will, which, as we all know, varies from different times to different times for different things. So, yeah. Harry says, will be approaching a local MP is a good option to expedite the application finalization? Well, MPs cannot expedite your application, because if MPs could expedite an application, then that's all they would be doing. There would be long queues outside their offices, and all the MPs would be sitting and helping IRCCs finalize the application. MPs cannot influence an application in any manner whatsoever. They have absolutely no authority, no way of asking IRCC to expedite an application. All they can do is they have a special hotline kind of number. They can inquire about your application. They can check about the status of your application. They can give you that information if you don't have it. But in most cases, even that information is something similar to what you're reading on your GCMS notes or what you're seeing on your application. Sometimes you might be able to get some extra information, but that's just about it. An MP cannot help you expedite your application. Soul Syrup, thank you, but there is no question there. My wife is a Canadian lawyer here in UAE. She is looking for a job. Maybe she can support you in your consultancy. Brandon, thank you so much. Yeah, please, by all means, have her drop us an email. If there is something which we can work with together, then we will be more than happy to give that a shot. Okay, Muhammad says, I'm an international student. My mother has a valid multiple entry Canadian visa, valid till 2026. Can she accompany me to Canada and stay for around 1 month? Well, if your mother has a visit visa, then most definitely she can come to Canada and stay for up to 6 months. If at all she is not restricted by the border officers. Yeah, so she can be in Canada, stay in Canada as a visitor for 6 months. And from there on, yeah, I mean, there is no problem. If she has a visa, she can stay. I raised a web form for upfront upload of updated POF to upload. I'm not sure what I'm seeing. Raised web form for upfront upload of updated POF. NDVO emails on Jan 2022 to upload POF. Okay, I'm totally confused what you're trying to say, but if you have uploaded the document, then I guess you will just need to wait for IRCC to acknowledge it. If you think they haven't received it, then by all means, why are you uploading it upfront? There is no requirement to provide updated proof of funds unless there is a drastic difference in the documentation that has happened. So yeah, I don't see the reason why you would do that. But if you have done it, then just simply wait for them to link it to your application. There is nothing else you can do about it. If you think it hasn't been linked, then raise another one, or you can call IRCC and check that the last document that you submitted, was it linked to your application or not. That's just about it. Okay, my file got picked in the last normal draw, 23rd December, with my score being 481. I'm still waiting for my PR. When do you think that will happen? Well, the fact that you got picked, that was a great event by itself. When do you think you will get your PPR? Well, I guess sometime during this year, you should get your PPR. That is what they are looking at, or that is how they are looking to process most of the applications for this year. So hoping that you would get yours through within this year itself. Oh, we just did this one. Oh, we have the same questions coming as well. Canadian immigration is getting out of reach day by day. Never thought it would be this difficult and scary. Well, I agree with you, but part of the reason is that when it was easy, was when it was not that much in demand. People were looking at Australia as well. People were looking at New Zealand as well. People were not really interested or keen in moving. So that was 2016, 2017, 2018. The interest towards Canada was low or not as high as now. Now, almost everybody wants to immigrate to Canada. So the interest is very high. The demand is very high. The quota is limited. So when you know the basic laws of economics, right? The demand and supply. If the demand is going to be high and the supply is going to be low, obviously there will be pressure there and things will rise. And that is what is happening at this point of time. But yes, I agree with you. It is quite scary. Okay, Ashfaq says PNP files with multiple PCCs or previous visa rejections are moved to Winnipeg in Jan 22, stuck there without any further movement. Please explain what can we do to expedite. Well, you can't do anything to expedite except just waiting for the processing to be completed. It is not in your hands. You cannot choose to do anything. You cannot push. You cannot influence your application in any manner, hoping that you have provided all the documents that was required in the first place. All you can now do is wait for the processing to be completed. Shikhar says, how will CEC candidates be able to get above 500 points? I have a Canadian bachelor's degree. Even with 1 year experience, the max points I can get is 474. Well, excuse me. You get higher points with age. You get higher points with the IELTS scores or the language scores. You get higher points if you are bilingual. You get higher points if you have a master's degree. You get higher points if you have more than 1 year of Canadian work experience. And you get higher points if you also have an arranged job offer. Culmination of all this will push you and propel you above the score of 500. Not to mention, you could also be a PhD graduate to get a higher score. Okay, will the new immigration streams for Ukrainians affect the existing immigration numbers for FSW, CEC for the year 2022, 2023? No, I don't think so. I mean, FSW and CEC, the numbers have already been affected. I don't think they can take any more pressure or take a beating on the numbers at all. They're already at the lowest possible numbers that they could probably push in this 400,000 target. So I don't see the immigration streams for Ukrainians creating any more pressure on that. In the beginning of the year, Minister Fraser said that they intend to reach the normal processing times of 6 months by year end. However, the memo mentions that the processing times may reach 36 months. Why the dichotomy? Well, what they're talking about is not that 36 months is applicable to all applications. What Minister Fraser was referring to was that the newer applications that are coming into the processing flow will meet the 6 months targets. That is what they're looking at. The previous 36 months processing is already for people. If you're an applicant from 2018, 2019, you're already seeing nearly a 36 months processing. So that is what they're referring to, that the older applications not all of them may see a 36 months processing, while they're also looking to complete or rather come back to the pre-COVID processing times for the newer applications. That is what is being referred. I'm a student in Canada. My Express Entry profile is expired. Should I make a new one or should I renew it? You cannot renew your Express Entry profile. There is no way you can renew your profile. You will have to create a new one. That is all that you can do. I don't want to show 6 months experience. Well, you don't have to show. If you do not want to show any period of work experience, you can always remove that work experience. And after you receive your ITA, you can show it in your personal history. No problem with that. Eligibility passed early 2021. No GCMS response in 4 months. I emailed. They said no response. Emailed ATIP last week. No response. Any advice? Well, whoever is the company that you have applied for your GCMS from, those will be the only people who can help you get your GCMS notes faster. They are the only ones who can follow up on the tracking and probably check with the ATIP as to why the GCMS not been issued. 4 months is pretty long. I agree. Maybe you can apply for the notes again, or maybe you can ask that company to apply for the notes again. Can we expect PPR from NDO more frequent, or it will be like batches only, wherein they release batches 2 times in a month or an average? Meher, we have already spoken about this. There is no fixed batch processing from any visa office. They will issue their PPRs obviously in batches, but when and how is something that depends on them, depending on their processing capacity. Remits requested, background checks in process. How much time until PPR? I really can't tell you because that will depend on how much time it will take for your security checks to complete. Okay, from here on, I'm not going to take any questions which asks me about how much time, because I really can't tell you. There is no way for me to tell you. IRCC has already said, Minister Fraser has said that they will be looking to complete most of the applications in process within this year itself. And going forward for the newer applications, they are looking to meet the set standard processing time of 6 months. So that would be the time that you can look at. But apart from that, if you give me a timeline, I really can't tell you how much time it will take. I'm hoping you receive it sooner than later, but that's all that's all I could tell you there. I have already got an invite via PNP. I meant people who have applied post ITA. Well, even if you are post ITA, the good thing is that you already are post ITA. I mean, look at people. There are 200,000 people who are waiting for ITA. So you're still on the good side of things. It only means that it's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time, just a few more days, few more weeks, few more months, and then you will be on the other side. Why spouse along with kids not? I think you mean spouse open work permits with kids not getting. Well, spouse open work permits were also under equal pressure. They are part of the backlogs that have been nearly part of 800,000 applications under backlog for TRV. It is understood that the new $85 million infusion that was made as a one-time budgetary expense is a large part of it is also going to go towards the spousal applications as well as the TRVs. So it is expected that we should start seeing some processing of the TRVs, including the spouse open work permits soon. Okay, I can see same questions coming again. Got COPR, want to know the current scenario and how many days IRCC? Well, again, if you want to check any processing times, please go and check on the CIC website. If you click different application type, you should be able to see how much time it will take for different application times. Similar questions, plenty of them. Processing times, again, I wish I could tell you about exact processing times. I really can't tell you much about that. I have an established business in India. How much turnover do I need to show to be eligible to open a business in Canada? There is no requirement for any turnover to be shown to be eligible to open to any kind of business in Canada. All you need is, in most provinces, you will need a partner who is a permanent resident or a citizen. Using that, you would be able to open a business while being outside Canada. There is no problem. There is no requirement to show any kind of turnover at all. So yeah, there you go. How long is PCC valid? Okay, police clearances from the country of your residence, wherever you're residing currently. From that country, the police clearance is valid for 6 months unless indicated otherwise on the police clearance. For any country which is not your country of residence, if you applied for the PCC while being outside that country, then that PCC remains valid until your next return to that country. All right. Snehal Thakkar, thank you for the chat, but I don't see any question there. So I'm not sure what your question was. So I think this was your question. Got COPR on 3rd of March on PR confirmation portal. Want to know current scenario, how many days IRCC sending PR card? If you want to change your mailing address, you will need to inform IRCC. Otherwise, the PR card may be sent to the old address. The PR card at this point of time could take anywhere from 3 weeks to 5 months. Variable, big range of time that can take for processing. In most cases, I've heard people receiving it in 3 weeks, in most cases. But then there are also those stories where people have taken up to 5 months and still not received their PR card. Okay. If I'm applying for study route, should I withdraw EE profile to avoid questions of dual intent? Well, you can do that because that will make you feel better. But in most cases, I haven't seen any issues because you have an express entry profile. Now, keep in mind, even if you withdraw the express entry profile, your profile cannot be deleted. It remains there. So, your expression of interest, your express entry profile is your expression of interest. So it will remain there, and you still basically should then clarify that you did intend to migrate to Canada because you filed your expression of interest by way of an express entry profile. Yes, you withdrew it. You think IRCC doesn't know what people are trying to do or what people are, by withdrawing their profile just before their application, etc. So, think about it. You can simply, if you want, leave your express entry there and just make an indication saying that if given a choice, if given a chance, you may want to migrate to Canada as well. But make sure you have sufficient ties to show for your home country if you are submitting your study permit application along with a good study plan as well. Why not just release the extension while they wait for CE draws to keep stability? Well, it's a good idea, but I'm not sure Fraser is listening to these good ideas at all. Can I get open work permit from India? Yes, you can if you are eligible to get an open work permit, which basically means you are a spouse of an international student or you are a spouse of a international foreign worker in Canada. Then yes, you can get an open work permit while you're in India. Is it a good time to make a profile for immigration and PNP? It is always a good time to make a profile, no matter when that time is. Whenever you think you want to make a profile, whenever you're ready to do it, absolutely make your profile. There's no problem with it. What about Alberta Accelerated Tech Pathway? I'm an outland. Do I require job offer supported by LMIA or just job offer from Alberta? Just the job offer from Alberta is enough at this point of time. You do not need an LMIA for this job offer at this point of time. So just the employer who can confirm that they are validating your job, that should be good enough. I am waiting for nomination from Saskatchewan. Can I apply for another PNP program? Thank you. Well, technically, yes, you can apply for another PNP program, but it would be in direct contradiction to the fact of you having applied for Saskatchewan, because whenever you apply for a provincial nominee or nomination, you are expressing your intent to reside in that province. So you've already done that to Saskatchewan. You've already told them that you want to live in that province. Now you will apply to another province. To this new province, you will have to disclose that you have an ongoing application with a different province. And then you will have to tell this province that you are interested in living in this province, which, as I said, is in a contradiction to the application you made to Saskatchewan. Either of the provinces are not going to like it. So, yeah. So unless you have a good reason to wanting to move to a different province, at that point of time, you can withdraw your application from Saskatchewan and continue with your application with a different province. But you cannot have two active applications with two different provinces at the same time. You can have two expressions of interest with two different provinces, but you cannot have two active applications. It would be in contradiction, as I said. Completing my one-year course on 7th April, post which I plan to go ahead with 1-year postgraduate work permit. Will it be wise to go on postgraduate work permit or another course to buy time? Well, you are the best judge, right? At the time you are completing your studies, you need to see what your options are. Do you have enough score in Canadian experience class if you were to complete your work experience? Do you have other PNP options? Which province are you in? Can you have an option? Do you have the option to go to another province, which might give you a better benefit in terms of applying for the PR? Okay, sorry about that. So at the end of the day, that is the judgment call you got to make. Again, we do not know what your scores are, what your age is, because that will also define what your score is going to look like. Make a informed decision by reviewing all different programs to see where your best shot is at. But yes, it's always safe to have done 2-year program and received 3-year work permit. 3-year work permit gives you a lot of flexibility. What happens is you've completed 1 year of work experience. You find that province you are in is not giving you an option. It's not really working in your favor. You can then move to a different province, still have option available in a different province. So that flexibility is there with you if you have a 3-year work permit. With 1-year work permit, you're stuck. You got to complete 1-year work experience. God forbid something happens and you're not able to complete 1-year work experience. You are then left in a lurch. You do not know what to do because your work experience is not completed. You can't be Canadian experience class. You may not be eligible in certain PNP programs. And then you definitely also need the employer support. A lot of variables there. Again, depending on your profile, depending on your scores, you may or may not want to take up another 1 year of program. But yes, any given day, 3-year work permit is much more safer and has more flexibility than a 1-year program. My medicals have expired. I did not receive remedical request. Does it mean I will get shorted COPR? My US visa renewal COPR validity might be in conflict. Visa process won't let me travel. Well, I can't tell you what your visa validity might be or whether it will be shortened or not shortened, but it is immaterial, right? At the end of the day, in most cases, you might not even need to do your remedicals. IRCC might give you an extension, again, depending on when you have completed your first medicals. And if you want to do upfront medicals, then go ahead and do it. And it is not necessary that your new medicals get linked to your application on time for IRCC to give you new validity. It is not your discretion or your choice to make and ask for longer validity just because you have done your remedicals. Okay. In most cases, if your validity period for your medicals is going to be less than 6 months, less than 3 months, less than 4 months, then at times IRCC may reach out to you and ask you that, are you okay to coming to Canada within this 3-4 months period, or do you want a longer validity, in which case you must do your medicals again. But if you think that you, in your extended medicals or extension, with the extension of medicals, you will have only 2 or 3 or 4 months of validity left, then by all means, either wait for IRCC to request you for medicals, which they would in most cases. Otherwise, feel free to get your upfront medicals done and send the copies to IRCC. Comments on status quo of backlog, or how do you think they're performing? Well, I mean, there is no status quo anymore. They are absolutely performing. They are absolutely processing the backlogs. It's evident. That is the reason why express entry draws are on hold, and they are still processing the applications that are in the pipeline. They landed 35,000 people in January. They have been landing 40,000 plus every month in November and December. So yes, so many people who are in the backlogs are getting cleared. So it is not a status quo anymore. And I mean, it might not be to your liking because you might still be in the backlog and waiting, but that doesn't mean that the processing is not happening. It obviously is going to get affected. I mean, COVID was not easy on anybody, and obviously IRCC did not have a good plan when it all hit us. But now at this point of time, I think they are now getting back into action. As I said, the whole thing about the express entry draws is that they're not happening primarily because they want to make sure that their backlogs are in control, and they can again go ahead and meet their processing times of 6 months. So that is exactly what's happening with the backlogs. After 1st of April, do we need any RT-PCR or antigen test, or was it April Fool's Day announcement? Well, it is entirely up to you if you want to think it was a Fool's Day announcement. I don't think government authorities are up to playing any pranks with people. At this point of time, the announcements have been made that from 1st of April, you will not need any RT-PCR or antigen test, but you should always check the IRCC's, or sorry, the Canadian Travel Information website before you are finalizing your travel plans. Okay, last few questions before we leave out. We've already done this. My slots are full. Actually, my slots are open. I think if you just check the appointment pages, then you would find that we have certain slots open. By all means, if you think you wish to book an appointment, by all means do. But my advice to you is not going to change. It's going to be the same even if you book an appointment or not. It's going to be exactly the same what I just told you. How accurate should the annual salary stated employment letters be? They have been a pay rise while I was on the job, but I can't remember the salary before the pay rise. Well, you don't have to remember. Your employer has to know. They have the record of the salary they have paid you, but your reference letter can always mention the last salary given to you and your last annual remuneration based on that, and that's absolutely fine. Your remuneration could be indicated as on a per hour basis, as an hourly wage, as a monthly wage, or as an annual package. There is no problem with that. For taking second course in Canada, proof of funds is mandatory. If yes, what can we show apart from GIC? Well, if you're taking a second course in Canada, you obviously need to show that you have enough finances to pay for their fee. GIC is not your fee. So it was never meant to be your fee. It is for your living expenses in Canada. So GIC cannot be shown as part of your proof of funds for your education. You should be able to show that you have enough funds to meet and pay for the second course that you are planning to take up. Many people said you need to hide your master's and study master program again in Canada. Is there any problem for hiding my degree? Yes, there is a big problem for hiding your degree. That basically means you are lying in your immigration application. And as many people will tell you, lying in an immigration application can have some very severe consequences, which could result in your application being refused and then you being banned for 5 years. It is also referred to as misrepresentation. Well, that's basically it for me. My throat is all parched, to be very honest with you. If you're still not following us on Instagram, well, then that's the link. Please do come and check us out there. As I said earlier, if you're looking to make an appointment one-on-one so that we can discuss your application, your profile, your queries and concerns in detail, then this is the link. As I said, I'm also in Dubai for in-person consultations. I will be meeting people tomorrow, which is a Sunday, and then again on Saturday, which is the 26th of March. I'm in Dubai until the 30th of this month before I head back home and enjoy the season of spring. So we will be doing another, I think, one more session from Dubai before we then resume back to our regular normal times in Canada. And yeah, that's just about it from my side. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And that's just about it. I shall see you next time. And meanwhile, please take care, stay safe, and I wish you all the best.